The crowd roared like thunder. Thousands of alien voices shouted, laughed, and cheered inside the giant arena. Lights flashed. Music played. Somewhere deep below the ground, a gate creaked open. 2 guards dragged a broken human body into the arena. His clothes were torn, blood was dried on his face, and his left arm hung useless. His name was forgotten long ago. Now they called him only Subject 42. He had no weapons, no armor, no hope. The announcer's voice echoed through the arena. Next, fight, 1 human slave against the champion of Sector 9. The aliens laughed. Most had never even seen a human before. They were rare now, weak, easy to break. They placed their bets. Some bet money, others bet ships. One powerful alien, the overlord named Draketall, smiled and said, "I bet my rarest prize. My silver-eyed slave. If the human wins, she's his." The others laughed. They thought it was a joke. Subject 42 stood in the center of the arena. His breathing was slow, heavy. Blood dripped from his mouth, but in his eyes there was still something. A fire. Across the arena, a giant metal door opened. His opponent entered, a Grather beast, a reptile-like warrior, over 8 feet tall, covered in black armor and thick scales. Its arms were like tree trunks. Its eyes were yellow and hungry. It had never lost a fight. The beast roared. The crowd screamed with excitement. But the human only stood there, calm, quiet. Somewhere in the upper levels of the arena, behind glass, sat the alien slave with silver eyes. Her name was Nira. She looked at the human closely. Something about him felt different. Not strong, not fast, but something. The announcer shouted, "Begin." The beast charged, fast and angry. It swung a heavy arm at Subject 42, the human. Moved but not fast enough. The blow hit his side. He fell hard, coughing blood. The crowd cheered louder. It was almost over, but then he smiled, slowly, painfully. He stood up. His ribs were broken. He could barely see. But he whispered something. Still not enough. The beast roared again and attacked. This time, the human moved just enough to avoid a fatal hit. He rolled, grabbed a piece of metal from the ground, and stabbed it into the beast's leg. The crowd went silent for a second. The beast screamed in pain and rage. It grabbed the human and threw him across the arena. He crashed into the wall. The alien overlords laughed, but Nira didn't. She leaned forward, eyes wide. She had seen that move before, the way he fought. It wasn't random. It was trained. Back in the arena, Subject 42 pushed himself up again. Blood ran down his face. He looked broken, but he was standing. The beast ran again, another attack. This time the human dodged fully, turned, and jumped on the creatures. Back, he stabbed the sharp metal into its neck. The beast screamed, spinning wildly. He held on. He was not trying to win. He was trying to survive, and maybe something more. With a final move, he used his own weight and the beast's speed to slam it into a metal spike sticking from the arena wall. The spike pierced through the beast's body. It roared one last time and stopped moving. Silenced. Then, an explosion of noise. The crowd didn't know what to say. A human had one. In the upper level, Draketall's face turned pale. He had lost. The slave Nira was now part of the bet. Nira stood up slowly. Her heart beat fast. She looked down into the arena. The human was on his knees, barely conscious. But before he passed out, he looked up straight at her. And smiled. The arena was quiet now. Blood still stained the sand. The Grather beast's body was gone. But the memory of what happened was fresh in every mind. No one believed it. A wounded, weaponless human had defeated a monster. But the man they called Subject 42 wasn't awake to hear their silence. He was back in his cell, unconscious, barely breathing. Hours passed. Metal doors hissed. Cold lights flickered. Subject 42 opened his eyes. Slowly. Everything hurt. Bones, skin, even his mind. He wasn't sure if he was alive or just not dead yet. He tried to move, but chains held him to the wall. Standard slave procedure. The guards weren't taking any chances anymore, but they should have known. He was not standard. Above, in the private chambers of Drake Toll, the overlord paced angrily. His pride was shattered. His slave Nira now belonged to the human by law of the arena, but Nira wasn't worried. She sat calmly, her silver eyes glowing softly in the dark. Drake Toll turned to her. "You will not leave. You are still mine," he shouted. She looked at him and spoke for the first time in weeks. "You lost. You bet everything. You always thought humans were weak." Her voice was calm, but something cold sat behind her words. Drake Toll stepped back, unsettled. He didn't know her full history. No one did. Not even Nira herself. But she remembered one thing now: she wasn't made for him. She was made for something else. Later that night, Nira entered the holding area where Subject 42 lay in chains. The guards allowed it by arena rule. She was his now. The human looked up slowly. His eyes were tired but alert. "You're the prize," he said with a dry voice. Didn't expect a greeting. Nira stepped closer. She scanned his wounds, deep cuts, cracked ribs, internal bleeding. Yet somehow, his body was already repairing itself. "You should be dead," she whispered. "I get that a lot," he replied. Nira leaned in. Her voice dropped. "What's your name?" He hesitated. It had been years since anyone asked. "Jackson," he said quietly. "Lieutenant Jackson Cade, Earth Defense Force." Nira blinked. That name felt familiar, like a dream. Long forgotten. Jackson looked at her closely now. Something about her eyes silver, glowing, not natural. Not fully alien either. "You're not just some slave," he said. "What are you?" She smiled faintly. "I'm what happens when humans and aliens work together. I was made in a lab, Earth Tech. Alien DNA. I was supposed to fight beside soldiers like you." Jackson froze. That was impossible. Earth was gone, or at least, everyone thought so. "Why are you here then?" he asked. "I was captured before activation," she said. "They erased my memory. But watching you, something came back." Suddenly, alarms blared. A new fight had been announced. Another test. This time, it wasn't random. The arena masters were angry, embarrassed. They wanted Jackson to lose badly. The next morning, guards dragged him from his cell again. But this time, Jackson didn't resist. His mind was sharp. His body still broken, but healing faster than it should. Something was changing inside him. Maybe it started when Nira looked at him. Or maybe it started long before, during that secret Earth program called Project HFY. Humanity Fights You. A whisper of it returned now. His strength wasn't just luck. It was designed. As he entered the arena again, the crowd booed. They wanted to see him crushed. This time, he faced not a beast, but a team of trained alien soldiers. He stood alone, shirtless, bleeding, breathing hard. Above, Nira watched from the shadows. Her hand touched a hidden control panel. A small spark glowed under her fingers. She wasn't just watching anymore. She was connected. The soldiers attacked together, fast and brutal. But Jackson moved smoother this time. Like instinct took over. He ducked, grabbed one by the arm, flipped him into the others. His injuries should have slowed him. But they didn't. He grabbed a fallen blade, blocked 2 strikes, kicked hard into another's chest. The crowd began to shift. Cheers mixed with shock. Up above, Nira smiled. "He's waking up," she whispered to herself. Not just his mind. His true potential. Within minutes, it was over. Jackson stood in the arena again. Bloodied, bruised but victorious. He looked up. Found Nira in the crowd, and for the first time, he nodded, not as a slave, but as a soldier. The stars outside the arena hung like silent watchers in the sky. Inside, the blood-soaked sand still smelled of metal and death. But somewhere in the cold halls of the alien fortress, something ancient was waking up. Not a machine. Not a beast. Memory. Her name was Nira, but she hadn't always been called that. Once, she had another name, a number, a designation, but it was locked behind walls in her mind. She stood alone in the observation deck, looking at her reflection in the glass. Her silver eyes glowed softly, like twin moons. No other creature in the galaxy had eyes like that. Not natural ones. Those eyes weren't born. They were built. Nira was quiet, always watching, always silent. The aliens thought she was just a pet, a rare trophy. Beautiful, obedient, harmless. But they were wrong. She had been made for something greater. For war. For protection. And for humans. Down below, in the med chamber, Jackson Cade lay on a cold metal bed. His body was wrapped in quick heal patches. His bones were repairing. His mind was replaying flashes, a battlefield, a lab, a girl with silver eyes reaching for him. He sat up suddenly, gasping. The door hissed. Nira walked in. They looked at each other in silence. She wasn't dressed like a slave now. She wore a dark uniform, tight, flexible, built for combat. Jackson raised an eyebrow. You change fast. Nira didn't smile. I remember things now. Pieces. The lab. Earth. The team that made me. Jackson frowned. Why were you made? Her voice was steady, but there was a tremble deep inside it. To stand beside people like you, to fight, to protect, to survive together. Jackson looked away, his hands clenched into fists. Earth is gone. Nira stepped closer. Maybe not all of it. She opened her hand. Inside was a small metal chip, no larger than a fingernail, a data core. They tried to wipe my memory, but this was hidden in my neural code. A backup. Jackson took it slowly. The chip was marked with Earth's old military symbol, the one used by the HFY initiative. He looked at her. So you're saying this was planned? Nira nodded. You weren't sent here to die. You were sent here to wake up. Meanwhile, in the shadows of the arena tower, Drake Tall watched them on a screen. His eyes narrowed. He had made a mistake. Betting that slave was one thing, but letting her get near the human, that was dangerous. He turned to his advisors. Prepare the next fight. No more games. I want him erased. And the girl too. Back in the med chamber, the lights flickered. Nira's body suddenly jerked. Her eyes glowed brighter. She fell to her knees. Jackson rushed forward, catching her. What's happening? She looked up, breathing hard. A system inside me just unlocked. A combat AI. It's syncing with your biosignal. He stared at her. You're connected to me? Her voice was soft but clear. I always was. Suddenly, a hidden panel in the wall slid open. A voice came from the shadows. It was low, mechanical. You're not supposed to be alive, Lieutenant. A figure stepped out, tall, armored, and part machine. A cyber gladiator from the dead zones of the galaxy. Built to kill anything that bleeds. Jackson pushed Nira behind him. His body still weak, but his instincts sharp. So this is their next move. The cyber gladiator raised its weapon. You're waking up too fast, human. That's a problem. But before it could strike, Nira moved. Fast, fluid, inhuman. She kicked the weapon aside, twisted, and launched a shock pulse from her palm. The robot flew back into the wall with a crash. Jackson stared. You've been holding back. She looked at him. Not anymore. Together, they ran through the dark halls. Lights flickered red. Alarms sounded. The arena was no longer a game. It was a trap. But Nira wasn't afraid. Not now, because her mission was clear. Protect the last hope of Earth. The fire was not outside. It was inside him. Burning. Alive. Jackson Cade didn't sleep that night. couldn't, while the walls of the alien prison cooled after another storm. Of violence, his body trembled not from fear, but from something waking up deep inside. Memories, images, commands. Subject 13. Begin combat calibration. Link established. Proceed with mental override. Target, survive. Objective, unknown. They weren't dreams. They were programs. Pieces of the human he used to be locked behind pain, unlocked by Wardot in the corner of the dark room. Nira sat cross-legged, her silver eyes closed. She wasn't resting. She was calculating. Her systems had synced with Jackson's neural code. Their energy levels were rising together. She spoke, without opening her eyes. They're going to throw everything at you now. You humiliated them. Jackson's voice was low. Good. This isn't just survival anymore, she said. You've become a symbol. They want to crush it before others see. Jackson stood, no shirt, fresh scars across his chest. His fists clenched. Let them come. The arena gates opened once more, but this time, there was no crowd. No cheering. No announcer, only silence. High above, Drake Toll and his council watched. From behind black glass. This was not entertainment. This was erasure. They sent in the Pit Master's 6 elite alien hunters. Trained in every known method of combat. Bred for one purpose. Kill without mercy. Jackson stood alone in the center. No weapons. Just his heartbeat. Nira's voice whispered through a small implant near his ear. I've mapped the arena. There are weak points in the walls. Energy nodes. If you can push them back. I'm not just pushing back, he said. I'm ending this. The Pitmasters attacked fast. 3 from the front. 2 from the sides. 1 from above. Jackson moved like water slipping, twisting, striking. His body reacted before his mind could catch up. He wasn't thinking anymore. He was remembering. Flash metal halls on Earth. A training room. A scientist shouting, Cade, don't block it, become it. His hands glowing with neural fire. You are not muscle. You are mind-made weapon. Back in the arena, Jackson ducked under a spear, kicked off a wall, grabbed one attacker, and used him as a shield against another. He wasn't fighting for fun. He was fighting like a machine, but feeling everything. His ribs screamed. His shoulder popped. But his eyes burned. 2 attackers fell. Then a third. The others hesitated. They had never seen a human move like this. High above, one of Drake Toll's advisors turned to him. He's adapting, evolving. Drake Toll crushed a glass in his hand. He's remembering who he is. Inside the arena, fire exploded from a power node Jackson had slammed one of the aliens into. Sparks rained down. The walls trembled. Suddenly, Nira's voice cut in, urgent. One of them escaped. He's coming from behind cloaked. Jackson turned just in time. He didn't see the attacker, but he felt him. His hand moved on instinct, grabbing air. But it wasn't air. It was the attacker's neck. Too slow, Jackson growled, and drove the alien into the ground. Then it was over. All 6 were down. And Jackson was still standing, but he wasn't done. He walked toward the wall, staring into the black glass above. He knew they were watching. He raised a bloodied hand and pointed. I'm not your dog. I'm not your toy. I'm not your entertainment. I'm the thing that's coming to tear this place apart. Drake Toll turned pale. Shut down the arena. Kill them both. The advisors moved quickly. But Nira was faster. From her hidden chamber, her fingers danced over the stolen control panel. Override accepted, a robotic voice said. Arena. Shields offline. A wave of energy pulsed through the entire building. Lights flickered. Doors unlocked. All over the slave sectors. Alarms began to ring. Freedom dash just for a moment was possible. Nira stood now, her eyes glowing white, her body. Armor shifted, activating. Jackson, she said into the mic. They started this as a game. Let's end it as a war. Before the arena ... Before the slavery. Before the blood ... There was a boy standing in a cold earth lab hooked to wires, with fire in his heart and a number on his chest. HFY-13. Jackson didn't remember everything. Not yet, but after the last battle, after the fire, the speed, the strange instinct, he knew one thing for sure. He wasn't just trained. He was built. He stood now in a dark chamber deep under the arena, guided by Nira through secret tunnels she had hacked open. Every wall whispered history-scratched markings from dead fighters, old human languages long erased. Nira walked beside him, silent, glowing. She had changed. Fully synced with his biocode, her armor had morphed, her voice stronger, her steps more sure. They were no longer slave and soldier. They were connected. They stopped at a sealed room, a hidden vault. The lock wasn't alien, it was Earth-made. Nira looked at Jackson. It responds to your DNA. Try it. Jackson stepped forward. Touch the panel. Click. Hiss. The door opened. Inside were shattered pods, burnt files, rusted screens, and in the center, a single flickering hologram. An old man's face appeared. Gray beard, cold eyes. If you're seeing this, he said, then HFY protocol has failed. Earth has fallen, or ... you escaped. Jackson stepped closer. His body was shaking. He knew that voice. It was General Rourke, the man who trained him, the man who broke him. Project Humanity fights you was simple, Rourke continued. We knew Earth was losing, so we changed the rules. We didn't build weapons, we became them. Flashes on the screen, children in training tubes, crying, screaming, metal entering bone. Eyes turning white. Hearts stopping then restarting. Stronger. We sent a few into space. You were the last Cade, HFY-13. The most dangerous. The most human. The hologram blinked, flickered, and shut down. Silence. Jackson didn't speak for a long time. Finally he whispered, they didn't just train me to fight. They rewired me. Nira nodded. Me too. But they gave me part of you, your neural pattern, your voice, your heartbeat, to build my system. That's why I feel what you feel. Jackson looked at her. Not just as a machine or a slave, but as something more, a piece of himself. A memory he never made, but always carried. Suddenly, boom, the ceiling shook. Drake Tall had found them, Nira's. Eyes flashed. They're collapsing the tunnels. They want us buried alive, Jackson smiled. They should have done that years ago. They ran, the lights turned red, doors slammed. Smoke filled the air. Alien soldiers dropped in from the upper vents. Jackson grabbed one of their rifles, spun, fired. Nira covered him with a shockwave from her palm, side by side, flawless. They moved like one. Finally, they reached the surface, an old balcony that looked over the entire arena complex. The alien city buzzed below, ships, guards, slave pens. Towers. Nira held out a small device. It's a beacon. Buried in my spine. I've been hiding it for years. It's Earth tech. But it needs your blood to activate. Jackson didn't even hesitate. He cut his palm. Dropped the blood on the beacon. Flash. The device glowed blue. Then shot a pulse straight into the sky. A signal. To anyone still listening. To anyone still alive. To Earth. Behind them, Drake Tall's voice echoed across the city loudspeakers. You think this makes you free? You are still only two. You are outnumbered, surrounded. You cannot escape. Jackson turned, eyes glowing faint gold now. We're not escaping. We're starting something. And far above the planet, deep in dead space, a small ship stirred. Inside, a screen lit up. Incoming signal detected. Source: HFY Protocol Unit 13 status. Active order. Respond. Retrieve. Rise. The game was never fair. But now, the board was on fire. Smoke rose from the lower sectors. Sirens screamed in alien tongues. Security drones swarmed in confusion. And in the heart of it all stood a single human. Covered in ashen blood, eyes burning gold. Jackson. Cade. Not a slave, not a fighter. A storm in human skin. Beside him, Nira, no longer silent, no longer still. Her body armor shimmered like living metal, her silver eyes glowing with sensed power. Together, they moved like a single thought. Fast, focused, unstoppable. This wasn't about escape anymore. This was about burning the system down. They sprinted. Through the control spire of the arena city, doors blasting open with Nira's hacked override codes. Behind them, alien guards gave chase, snarling, shouting. But for every guard that came close, Jackson dropped too. He used their weapons against them. He used the walls, the shadows, the chaos. He didn't fight like a warrior. He fought like a ghost built for war. Nira pulled up a map in her wrist display. The central core is 1 floor up. If we hit the power lines there, we can shut the whole arena grid down. Jackson nodded. We shut it down, and we open the doors. 2. What? Everyone. They reached the lift shaft. No power. No time. Jackson looked up. Hold on. Nira grabbed his back. He launched his grappling cord, and they shot upward, dodging falling debris as the building shook from internal explosions. Something was breaking. Beneath them, systems failing. That meant it was working. Meanwhile, far below, deep in the slave zones, gates began unlocking, cells opened. Creatures of all shapes and species looked up, confused at first, then angry, then free. An old 4-armed miner grabbed a pipe. A young insectoid female lifted a stolen blaster. A beast creature roared for the first time in years. Freedom wasn't given. It was taken. Back in the core chamber, Nira and Jackson burst through the final gate. A glowing column of alien energy spun in the center, powering not just the arena, but the entire city system. Nira began hacking into the control ports. If we do this, there's no turning back. No safety net. Jackson walked to the energy core and stared at it like a man staring into his own past. There was never a net, only cages. He plunged a stolen plasma blade into the column. The room exploded in blue light. Power blinked. Sirens died. Screens went black. And across the city, everything opened. The games were over. Now came the reckoning. Above them, in his tower, Drake Tull screamed at his advisors. Shut it down, kill them. But the guards were gone. Some fled. Some joined the rebellion. Outside his window, the arena was in flames. He had ruled with games and fear. Now both were gone. Jackson and Nira stood in the ruins of the core. We need to leave, Nira said. Reinforcements will come. I'm not done yet, Jackson replied. He walked to a console still flickering and plugged in the HFY beacon. What are you doing? Sending a message, not to Earth, to everyone. He typed one line into the universal broadcast system. The games are over, the humans are back, and we're not alone anymore. He hit send. All across the stars, satellites caught the message. Old rebels, hidden colonies, slaves in distant systems. Hope, for the first time in decades, had a voice. Again, a human voice. Nira turned to him. We started something they can't stop now. Jackson looked at the fires outside. Let them try. Far above the planet, beyond the smoke and cities, a shadow moved. A long dormant Earth vessel, silent for years. Now awake. Inside, computers lit up, weapons hummed, and a command AI whispered, HFY-13 confirmed alive. Extraction in process. Preparing for war. The sky was on fire. Smoke curled into the clouds. Towers burned. Ships crashed like falling stars. The great arena, once a monument to alien pride, now lay in broken pieces, echoing with the sounds of freedom and rage. But deep beneath the chaos, Jackson Cade was running out of time. His heartbeat was slowing. His wounds too deep this time. His body, even enhanced, couldn't hold much longer. He had pushed past limits, survived impossible battles, and lit a spark across the stars. But now, the fire inside him was fading. "Nira," he whispered, falling to one knee beside a shattered wall. She caught him before he hit the ground. Her silver eyes wide with panic. "No, no. Stay with me, just stay awake." He smiled, blood on his teeth. "We did it, didn't we?" She nodded, holding him close as the distant sound of slave rebels rising grew louder. "Yes, you broke the game." The signal reached 12 systems. "They're responding." He blinked. Slowly, his voice was weak. "Good, keep it going, lead them." She shook her head. "Not without you." But she wasn't just saying it. She felt it. The neural bond between them had gone beyond code, beyond combat. She was built from his DNA, his rhythm, his pain. In every way that mattered, they were one, and he was slipping away. Suddenly, a low rumble shook the ground. Above them, clouds split open like torn fabric. A massive ship appeared, black, earth-made, sleek like a blade. The lost vessel. ARK-13, a relic from Earth's secret war. It hovered silently, scanning the planet. Then, a voice echoed from the sky. Cold, robotic, familiar. HFY Unit 13 detected. Retrieval engaged. Stand clear. A beam of blue light surrounded them. Jackson's body lifted gently into the air. Nira with him. They were rising up through the fire and smoke toward the ship. Inside ARK-13, old systems hummed awake. Artificial gravity, oxygen, weapon bays, and a single stasis pod waiting. Jackson looked around. Barely conscious, a screen appeared in front of him. Biometric match. HFY-13. Condition, critical. Recommend, emergency stasis. Nira helped him into the pod. Her hands trembled. "You'll sleep. You'll heal. They built you to survive worse than this," she whispered. "I'll watch over you." He smiled one last time. "Wake me when we win." The pod hissed shut. Then, she stood alone in the command room. Stars beyond the glass. The fire of rebellion. Behind her, she pressed one button. Broadcast full rebellion plan to all HFY tagged beacons. Upload human combat archives to all allied systems. Begin Earth return protocol. Across the galaxy, oppressed colonies and hidden human outposts received the message. He survived. The fire lives. The fight begins now. Meanwhile, Drake Tall stood in the ruins of his tower, alone, broken, empire gone. Above him, the Earth ship glided silently across the sky, like a judgment written in metal and fire. He fell to his knees. One human did all this. But it wasn't just one human. It was what humans become. When you back them into a corner, and far away, back on Earth, a quiet screen blinked in a dark underground base. For the first time in decades, the signal was clear. HFY-13 alive. Beacon active. War has begun. A general stood. No speeches. No fear, just orders. Launch fleet. Bring him home. He was designed to fight. He was forced to bleed. They called him broken. But in the end, he was human after all. And that was enough.